It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a former great from the football ranks. A German-born fullback who started at Auburn, he entered the NFL in 1994 as an undrafted free agent. He spent that season on the Dallas Cowboys practice squad before he signed with Kansas City in 1995. From there, he became one of the best fullbacks in NFL history, having blocked for 1,000-yard rushers in 9 consecutive NFL seasons. He led the Chiefs in rushing yards in 2000. He was a 3-time Pro Bowl selection and a recipient of the Walter Payton Award in 2010. In 2016, he was inducted into the Chiefs Hall of Fame. It's Tony Richardson. He joins this live stream of Listen In with KNN right now. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome into a new live stream edition of Listen In with KNN. As always, I appreciate you all joining me on the show. It's March. We've got lots of madness going on, but not just in the basketball world and football. We see all these new moves. Oh my gosh, all these teams are going to look so different come this upcoming football season. So nonetheless, I had to get back from Vegas, had to get back to you all before flying out tomorrow. And I have a fun show for you all. We're talking football. We're going to touch on the Sweet 16 happening tonight. College basketball fans, we are here. This is our holiday. We love the Sweet 16 and all the great storylines that this brings. Hopefully some of your brackets are intact. Probably no one, but I'm going to be positive on the show, and hopefully some of your brackets are intact. Mine, I didn't make one this year because I didn't want to do any heartbreak. All right, no heartbreaks for me in 2022. So no brackets for me, but my Lady Terps are still in it. So I'm still a very happy girl on this side of the world, and so much more. We know the qualifiers are going on, of course, as we count down to the 2022 FIFA World Cup happening in Qatar, and so much more. But you know what? I don't want to spend more time. I know we're doing a later show than usual. So let me introduce our special guest for today. Joining me today, I have Alabama Sports Hall of Fame inductee, 17-year NFL veteran. So a man who played the game for a very long time and knows it at the highest of highest levels. None other than Tony Richardson joining me live right here on the show for the very first time. Let's give him some DC love, some DC props, and be nice. All right, Washington Commanders fans. All right, we're talking all things football. Let me bring Tony onto the show. Tony, thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm excited. That was a great intro. You had some pictures up that I hadn't seen in a long time. So it's it's very good to be on the show. I did tell you I have a dog. It's amazing how smart he is. As soon as I jump on a podcast or a Zoom, that's when he gets up and starts moving around because he knows I can't get to him while I'm on the Zoom. So he's literally right here. Yeah, he's free. He's like, I'm free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
Smart dog, like smart man, smart dog. That's okay. Look, you're letting us into your house. So whatever we get with the house, hey, it comes with the territory. We've met animals on the show. We've met kids, wives, spouses. look, whoever people bring on, we want them here because this is a family show. We're having a conversation, but nonetheless, so excited to have you on. I know we've had a chance to talk through Twitter, but it's always better to talk face to face, right?
No
Just
doubt.
have a real conversation, and that's what we do on the show, Tony. So I first like to start with a wellness check. How are you feeling? How are you doing? How are things on your end?
Everything's good. Obviously New York is starting to open back up. There was some big news today that's going to allow some of our basketball players, or one basketball player, that one guy. He's pretty good though. He's a pretty good player. But I'm good. So it's it's just beautiful to be alive, and just today was kind of a rainy day, so kind of gloomy. I was in the house for the most part, but I got my little trusty Rambo, is my dog. So he's at my feet right now, trying to. I call it surfing. So what he does is, if he knows I eat kind of in this area. Yeah. He just kind of scours and see if I drop anything.
He waits.
Oh, he knows.
He's like me. Rambo's like me. Where there's who Kelsey is, all right? Yeah. But I like the name Rambo. Why'd you give him the name Rambo? It's after the movie, right?
No, it's a very interesting story. I think it was 2016. A friend of mine had always had dogs. I was currently playing. So when I moved here to New York, unfortunately, I had lost my dogs to cancer when I was in Minnesota. And so I was kind of teetering around maybe getting a dog, but I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready or not. And so a friend of mine was like, hey, we got these 4 dogs coming over from Egypt, and they're actually in pretty bad shape. And would you want to do a temporary home? And I was like, I live in Long Island City, which is, 2 seconds away from Manhattan. So a pretty nice neighborhood. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to bring these wild street dogs into this neighborhood. They've been bit someone or something like that. And so the dog I chose, he was already named Rambo. And he actually, he's a tripod. So he only has 3 legs. So he lost his front leg.
Oh my gosh, okay.
While he was in Egypt. And so the interesting thing is we work out, we run, and it's amazing how well he gets along. Because initially I took him down to the vet, and I was like, man, do I need to get him a prosthetic leg or anything like that? And the vet said, since he lost his leg at such an early age, he didn't even know he didn't have.
He's used to it, right? He's used to not having that leg.
Yeah, he can get down. So his name is Rambo. He's a fighter, and best dog I've ever had. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, Rambo, sending you love from DC. And like you said, it's a nasty day out here. Like, Tony, get me back on the plane and get me back to Vegas. This is not what we're back to Coast for. Like, come on, we need better weather. But we're hoping to bring joy back in people's lives. And you talked about, that mandate changing for athletes. Just curious, I don't know if you talked to anybody else in New York, but, has that been received well from folks? Are they just happy to see Kyrie be able to get back on the basketball court and be able to play and participate in those home games?
Yeah, the thing about it is that's a very, it's a hot topic right now. And so a buddy of mine, we talk sports, try not to talk too much politics, but for me, I didn't quite understand it. And he sent me an article and I read it, and I'm like, I don't necessarily know if this is fair, because it's like a lot of workers actually lost their jobs, due to the mandate. And now it's an exemption that says that athletes who are unvaccinated can play, but people who lost their job aren't going to get rehired. So I think the sports fans, we know everything's driven by money. So sports fans, I think, are pretty happy. But there's a lot of my friends who go to work 9 to 5 and bust their butt, who aren't too pleased about it. But I don't get into politics. I'm just like,
I get you. It's interesting. You're right. Like you said, unfortunately, there were people that were greatly impacted by the mandate. Now, it's been reversed for athletes, so it's not like a privilege, that he's getting. But at the same time, Tony, I feel like if the Nets go on to win the championship, I don't know, maybe all will be forgotten and folks will just say like, hey. Well, the thing about it,
I was actually watching the game when Kyrie made the entrance, because I live in Long Island City, but if I take the G train, I could be in Brooklyn.
Yeah, right there.
Right there. So it was crazy that he was able to walk into the stadium arena unvaccinated and could sit and watch the game, but he couldn't go out there and play. So I'm like, yeah. So I think the rule was a little, unfortunately, I think the rule was a little off. But my biggest thing is that people are healthy and people are safe, and unfortunately, some people lost their loved ones, and so that's something that I take very seriously.
Yeah, again, just prayers to everyone out there. I know we're still fighting through this pandemic, as you mentioned. Things are beginning to open back up, but still, people are still losing their lives. We're still fighting this battle. And just one day, we want COVID-19 to be hopefully a memory.
And people are still catching. I'm just like, the numbers are actually starting to increase. So I'm still wear my mask. I still be super careful because it's
for sure.
always
Inside when I need to be. I was so glad on the airplane. I was that tattletale when someone had their mask off too long, put it back on. Like the snacks and drinks are over, but like you have to be safe, and it's keeping us all safe. So again, I'm glad that you touched on that. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully for the Nets, I guess it pays off. Brooklyn, all right.
Yeah,
we need to see something now that this has changed. So I'm glad you touched on that. The other thing, talking about basketball, the other big thing going on. I'm not sure if you're into March Madness as much, but we got the Sweet 16, Tony. It's Thursday. You're watching it, right?
I'm not watching. I'm focused right here.
There we go. I like that.
And I turned the volume down. But obviously, living here in New York, everyone's rocking for Villanova, but I'm pulling for Michigan, so I want to see Michigan pull this out. So,
oh my gosh,
I've always been a Fab Five fan, and so they brought the baggy shorts, all of the stuff, and obviously, those guys in the Fab Five, but I'm really pulling for Michigan to see if they can pull it out.
Yeah.
Since my Auburn Tigers got crushed last week, so now
I feel you.
I got that, but I'm actually going down to Philly tomorrow to watch St. Peter's, and so St. Peter's is only.
I was going to ask you about St. Peter's. They've been the Cinderella story team, right? That's like captivated us all. Got mustaches and Buffalo Wild endorsements. Like we love St. Peter's. Shout out to Jersey getting a lot of love. No longer in New York shadow.
No doubt. Yeah, it's funny because a buddy of mine, which is kind of crazy. So I'm a huge horror fan. So my buddy last week, he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I got somebody I want you to meet." So I go to this diner and he was like, James, and I'm looking I recognize the guy. So I actually had a chance to sit down and have lunch and dinner with, he plays Michael Myers. He's the actual guy in the Michael Myers. So we went and watched the St. Peter's game together. And my boy, his dad went to St. Peter's, his mom went to St. Peter's, and his wife went to St. Peter's. And I didn't even know they only have 2,000 students and getting it done. So I'm pulling.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, the rest of us with big pools, like my men Terps that didn't even get in it, but we're not going to go there. Right. We've got to work on some things. And this is why we love March. This is, I think, why we love basketball, because it's just like you get these schools that you're not even thinking about, right? Exactly. And the players that, this is their moment, right? That one shining moment that they all kind of want to achieve. Yep. And now they've galvanized that. I mean, that's what we're all like tuned in for. And so it'll be great to see if they're able to pull off the whole thing. I can't take it luck to Michigan. I'm a Terp, Tony, so I can never say that. My lady Terps, I hope they do well. Coach K, maybe he'll be able to get it done before he retires. What did you think overall about this Duke basketball team? That immense pressure, I'd say, that they have on them now, because we know Coach K is retiring, and hopefully they can send him off with another championship. Yeah, listen, I actually watched the Duke North Carolina game. It's probably the most anticipated game I think I've ever let me go ahead and cook my wings. Let me go ahead and make sure I order my sides. You have to be prepared. I saw the ticket prices and I'm like, man, this is crazy. But the atmosphere of that game was, none other than you saw T.O. in the stands, you saw Kyler Murray, you saw these guys in the stands that really wanted to witness that, and what he's been able to accomplish, and literally to be at a university for that long and to be able to have the success he had. And not only that, but it really shows. Because I guess when he first started, he struggled. Yeah. And he said, man, thank God they kind of rolled with me, because they could have fired him in the early years. And just the way they stood by him, and the fact that, everything he's been able to accomplish. I was disappointed that they lost, but I think that loss against North Carolina is probably going to wake them up, and they're going to be a tough out. Yeah, I think it fueled them kind of, right? Everyone knew, that you're supposed to get that win. Come on, folks. Last game, Cameron for Coach K. No doubt. But like you said, it was tough. But, again, I went to Maryland, so, it's nice to do. But just what Coach K has accomplished, as you mentioned, is terrific and incredible and amazing. And so, I will say good luck to them again. We are so excited to have March Madness, one of the best times of the year. And then it's if that's not enough, then all these football moves we've got going on, Tony. Can you stay away from your phone or social media? It just seems like so much is happening. I was going to get into this with you later, but I feel like we're already talking about all this stuff moving. And actually, really quickly, shout out to the Patriots for letting Providence use their team plane to ride. I thought that was so cool. I mean, coolest kids when they get back to campus, whether they win or lose. But, Tony, you're like me, right? On social media, you're on Twitter, you see these NFL moves dropping. So let's start off with what's been the craziest move so far this offseason that just kind of had you going, wow, in shock. I can't believe it. Hands down was yesterday. So obviously, I rock with my Jets, but I also rock with the Chiefs. Yeah. And so midday, I'm getting all these texts, and, after our conversation tonight, I'm jumping on the Jets, podcast. Nice. And so all of a sudden it was Jets and Dolphins are in the running for Tyreek Hill. I'm like, running for Tyreek Hill? He ain't going nowhere. He receipts. What do you mean? Like,
And the thing about it is, and I didn't even jump on the chat yesterday because I'm like, you know what? There was about 700 people in the chat. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna get my hopes up. I didn't think it was gonna happen, but you started thinking it's just like there's no possible way he's leaving Kansas City. And look at that, what, a first, a second, like all these draft choices and everything else. And so that's to me, it's the biggest move so far.
Oh my gosh, I mean, getting the job done, folks. I mean, you got 3-time All-Pro wide receiver, $120 million, all right, for your contract extension. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, the man is talented, but like you said, I don't think anyone saw that coming. We were still, Tony, focused on the quarterback situations that we have to, figure that out. And while we're talking about that, I mean, okay, so I feel like if you have a quarterback jersey, you probably have to make sure that quarterback is still on your team right now. So much has been happening. So we know Russell Wilson going to Denver, of course, probably one of the biggest news. And then if that wasn't enough, right now, Baker Mayfield is still looking for a home. We know.
I don't know where he's going to land. Yeah, that's surprising. I'm like, but I think all the teams are full. I mean, the only team I could see him possibly going to is maybe going to Carolina, competing with Sam Darnold. But I mean, the Colts got their quarterback. He could potentially go to the Falcons. But I like Baker as a person. I just never was a Baker Mayfield football fan. I mean, I think he did a great job in college, but I don't think it really translates to the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's even on a roster. I think he will be on a roster, but that's going to be it. But yeah, all the dominoes are just falling. It's like, man, you can't even, Matt Ryan. And I'm like, how does Matt Ryan leave Atlanta?
I mean, we've got so used to him in Atlanta. Now Matty Ice with the Colts, got Carson Wentz here in Washington. Literally, it's been just move. We're playing chess, not checkers here right now in the NFL, as everybody is making a move. But staying on Baker, I would love to ask, when do you think, I feel like Baker maybe, is one of those guys, either love him or hate him, I feel like, right? And sometimes it's off the football field, people don't like him, but all that to say, when do you really think his kind of fall from grace happened? Meaning, when do you think teams are just kind of like, I'm not sold on this Baker Mayfield train? Because it really just seems like, I mean, Tony Kornheiser was like, you can't trade him now for a ham sandwich. It's hard times for Baker Mayfield. And he's probably first pick. I was playing, I think, well for the team. I did what I did for the Browns, made some playoff. And now all of a sudden, I'm searching for a home.
Yeah, I think what it is I think when you when you make the quarterback, obviously you're the center of your franchise and the face of your franchise. Sometimes it's just be a leader and not, get into the media and all that kind of stuff. And so obviously when they were flirting with Deshaun Watson and he went to Twitter and was like, the bridge is burned, I'm not coming back, yada, yada, where, I listened to the press conference when Matty Ice went to, he was very, very emotional, but he said, some of the things I was hearing was hard to hear. And it was very difficult for me and my family to have to deal with. But he went about it the right way. He said, let's put together something that works for you and works for me. And I want to go ahead and move on. And I just think teams they just can't deal with that, because you can't be a distraction. And I think he's a big personality. And I think he's a good player, but I think sometimes it could be a little bit much.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Again, you love him or hate him, and maybe not all teams want that. Same with quarterbacks. You mentioned that name, Deshaun Watson. Another one that I don't know if any of us saw that coming. One, we didn't even know if he was going to maybe play, right? Because we saw the case going down, but then we saw the decision that happened. And next thing we know, the Cleveland Browns guaranteed millions of dollars. Deshaun Watson took, I think, the league by storm. So all that to say, I think I'm excited for Deshaun, excited for his agent and what they have done. But also, I want to ask you, as we look at the NFL and kind of the precedent that they set, for football players, I'd say, especially after the incident with Ray Rice. And, some people saying, well, what is the league trying to say to us? Is it just about football talent? Or, are we still looking at the civil cases that need to play out and the league that doesn't respect women and prioritizes women, especially as the league continues to grow with female fans? And so I've been getting a lot of questions about that, especially people like to ask me as a female, Kelsey, how do you feel about this as someone who covers the game? But also comes from that perspective. But from you as a former player and probably talking to other former players and I'm sure current players, just kind of what's your whole perspective on the Deshaun Watson to Cleveland signing?
Yeah, for me personally, obviously, a little bit about my background, kind of touched on it, but my dad is a military man, 32 years Vietnam veteran. And obviously my mom and I have two sisters. One sister served 28 years in 4 deployments. And so for me, I have the utmost respect. My sister is my superhero. She's my closest friend. We talk every day. And so it was disturbing. I actually had to go on Hannity. My buddy was a producer for Hannity, and I lived not too far from the city during the Ray Rice situation. And I jumped my crazy butt on there. I should have not have got on there. But, and So Hannity asked me a question, not to change subject, but he said, "Hey," he said, "Tony, let me ask you," and it was so much going on, and so it was a hot button time. He said, "Hey, Tony, if with everything you know now, do you think Ray Rice deserves another opportunity to play in the National Football League?" And I took a deep breath and I said, "You know what? I don't support domestic violence at all. If him and his girlfriend at the time, if they could go through the proper channels and go through, everything, I think he should get another opportunity." Man, I got so much hate mail. I got lit up. I mean, just because there's no right or wrong answer. And the thing about it, I would never support domestic violence. It's like I'm never going to say, well, there was no cases. Because for me, as a former player, I think I might have had 10 massage therapists in my 17-year career.
Wow.
If there's smoke, there's fire, and there's, I think, 30 or 40. And it's sad. I listened to WIP, Philadelphia Sports Radio, quite a bit. And today they had a segment. They said, what person or 5 people can you name that the NFL may not, hire? And they were talking about like Jeffrey Dahmer. And I'm like, where do these people come from? Oh, man, it was like Hitler. And it was like all these people. And they were like, the NFL they have no moral standard. And that was pretty disturbing that people actually think about our game like that. So I think those are things with the owners meeting coming up that has to be taken care of.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think as the league continues to grow again, I think some of these moves we're seeing, we know more people are obviously buying into the league. We see them making more and more money, right? Because we love football, like we just do. It's really, I'd say, America's pastime. And as you said, it's like as the league tries to move forward, there is a way they think that they have to be consistent with how they're handling these issues. And again, I understand how the verdict was, and now we're going to go through the civil cases. So it's something that the league will truly have to kind of again just figure out and try to send a clear and concise message. Because I think right now they're getting mixed messages. No one likes to get mixed messages from anybody, right? Because it makes you confused and you don't truly know where things are. But of course, we'll see
and to kind of take that back a little bit. So when I was with the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin Stefanski was our kind of quality control. And so I knew he was going to be a head coach. He was extremely smart and quality control to assistant running back coach. You kind of knew. So I know him personally. I haven't reached out to him because I just, we text occasionally. Yeah. But it's just, for me, it's just like even how they structured the contract, like, okay, we know you're going to get suspended. We're going to go ahead and give you all of this money up front. And they're going to make a base salary like $1 million. It's just like, so it's like whatever, we don't, we just believe in you and disregard everything else. And so that was kind of disturbing. And I saw so many of my female friends who were in the media and was just like, okay, so you can have all this stuff and then you can get rewarded and be the highest paid quarterback, highest paid player, guaranteed money in the history of the league.
That's what was crazy because people are like, this case, we didn't even know if we were going to see him back on a football field, Tony. Now, yet alone, we've got quarterbacks that are still waiting for some contracts, and they're now looking at Deshaun to set their precedent of what they're going to get paid.
And he, sat on the sideline for the entire season and still made $30-something million last year. And it's like, I don't know. I don't get in no one's pockets. I don't count anyone's nickels. But I think that for men and women, I think that was a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, it'll just be something that we continue to follow. But again, so much to follow with the quarterbacks, Devontae Adams going to the Raiders. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I know he got paid, but I don't know. Green Bay Packers, I don't know if people are just going to be writing them in to be playing in the Super Bowl this season. Because, it's one thing to get paid as a quarterback, but you need somebody to throw to. You need weapons. Right, Tony?
Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me. It's just like, and everyone's saying, because I think Aaron Rodgers is probably the most talented quarterback, that we've seen. Yeah. But also, I think there's a reason why Tom has so many rings is because he understood that I need to take less. And if I take less, we can have more people around me and we can win more rings and we can make more money. So I think there's a way to go about doing it. When he signed that contract, I'm like, they said $50-something million a year. I'm like, I think it's $54 million in the first year. I'm like, so you gotta make sure you can still keep your pieces around you. And because like you said, you could be the highest paid quarterback, but if you have no one to throw the ball to, it's going to be pretty difficult. So
it's going to be hard, especially if you're trying to win another ring before you're done. So again, this is something we continue to follow. Well, that's why we love the NFL, though. Again, the storylines just keep happening because if you're not on social media, you check your phone and like, wait, what happened?
Exactly.
It's just it's things that happen. Or think about the situation in Baltimore, even with Zadarius Smith, and thinking you got a guy, the next thing you know, He's not coming. So again, fans, just follow your teams and hopefully as we prepare for this upcoming season.
Well, and that's the biggest thing, and I think you mentioned it. So the biggest thing is just don't buy a jersey.
I know.
I remember back in the day, you could buy a Tony Dorsett jersey. He was going to be there. You could buy Emmitt Smith.
Not anymore.
Now it's just like 1 year in, 1 year out, like Carson Wentz. He's been on 3 teams in 3 years. That's
oh my gosh,
unbelievable.
Yeah, Carson Wentz fans are the real ones because y'all have to keep different jerseys and say, okay, I've got a new team now, right? Stop supporting Carson here.
And I'm a Carson Wentz fan. Like I love his faith. Everything I heard, his work ethic. He has all the skill sets, like everything you could possibly imagine. Yeah. And it's just like, unfortunately, I had to look at the TV. Coach K just walked into the arena. So it's like the president. They always show like it's like the first lady and the president walking in. I was like, what's up?
That's what Coach K gets. I mean, he's royalty. Coach K is truly basketball royalty. And I'm so glad that you talked about Carson Wentz because we're based in DC. This is a DC-based show, so it sounds like you're feeling pretty confident in what Carson Wentz can hopefully do for the Washington Commanders team, Tony.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of injuries in Indianapolis, and things happen. But I think he's big, he's physical, he's smart, strong arm, good leader. So I think he has all the intangibles. It's just sometimes everything just has to fall into place. And sometimes you have a guy like Tom Brady who obviously goes to Tampa and wins the Super Bowl in the first year, which is but everyone jumped up. They wanted to go down there and play with him. So It takes that type of guy to be able to turn it around, but. You still have to have an offensive line play. You still have to have, and granted, the running back Jonathan Taylor, he's pretty special. So you had pieces there, but I think everything has to fall into place. And and I guess he was out with COVID, so he had all those things that kind of happened. But now he has a clean slate. Hopefully, the fan base welcomes him, and I think he can have success.
Yeah, and as we're talking about all these moves, I'd be smitten if I didn't talk about fullbacks, Tony. And some fullbacks I got someone said on Baltimore. Lots of fans excited about Pat Ricard that extension contract. I'm a Pat Ricard fan because what he does for that Ravens team. And I wanted to talk with you about fullbacks, Tony, because I feel like they don't get enough love or enough support or show. Let's talk about their importance in the game of football, right? For the football fans out there that don't understand why Pat Ricard can get that extension and that money, how would you explain it as a former fullback?
Well, for me, I always looked at the fullback as being the caretaker of the tailback, but also kind of I always took my responsibility extremely important, and I think I learned that when I first came to the Cowboys, and I saw the relationship that Moose and Emmett had. And just the way they would communicate, the way they watch film together, all those kind of things. And so I was like, if I ever get into this position of a starter, I want to have that same relationship. And so for me, like I would have Larry Johnson, I would have Priest Holmes, Derek Blaylock. We'd come over to the house, we would barbecue, we'd play pool, and then we would study film. And so I built those relationships, so much so Adrian Peterson over my shoulder, LaDainian, Thomas Jones, who I still ride with. It's just that good relationship. And it's like when Brett Favre came to the Jets, he knew the West Coast offense, but he really didn't know the plays. And so he was like, Cheers, what's the play? And I'm like, okay, this is like two jet. So I'm over here telling him to play just because it's the same language. Right. And it's just a thing that he knew I knew the offense. And so it's just like, even with Sanchez, like he was like a little brother to me. So it's just like the fullback is a guy that we don't go out for the glory. We just want to make sure that everyone gets the success that they need, and we get our job done. So but I'm a Ricard fan, and to our fans and listeners who are out there, just go back and watch some tape. That dude levels people, and he's big, he's physical, touches the ball. I mean, he's now my favorite fullback is obviously Hushek in San Francisco, but Ricard,
the former Raven as well. I feel like Baltimore is good with the fullback position. We just get it.
Ricard, he thumps people. For me, when I see him play, I'm like, I can watch his tape all day long.
Just a great guy. And it sounds like you're describing the fullback is kind of like that team player guy, right? Like just make sure everything's in place. I did want to touch on that because again, I feel like people don't fully understand that position and its importance. And you touched on Brett Favre. We've got a question from the listeners. Jamal Cutler wants to know, do you have any funny Brett Favre stories, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ones he just didn't know the plays, but I guess the good one was because the crazy part about it, how everything went down was Chad Pennington was our starting quarterback in the preseason. We were in Cleveland, and I get a call from Chad at probably like 7 in the morning on game day. Hey, T. Rich, man, I just want to let you know it was great working with you, and I'm leaving. I'm like, leaving? Where you going to go to some Starbucks? I'm like, what you talking about? He was like, yeah, I just got traded to Miami. And so I didn't know anything. They didn't, even I was in year 15. All of a sudden, I hear roar of the crowd like during the game. And I look over and I'm like, what the heck? And next thing I know, Favre is walking out onto the field during the game. And he's grizzly and fans are going nuts. And he comes over and he was like, hey, and I was like, hey, man, I was like, what's cool? He was like, I said, listen, I'm just glad you're here because now I'm not the old fart anymore. So, so I was glad after he got there, I wasn't the old guy anymore. But,
that is funny. Look, it's always good to not be the old guy in the room. Right now, you're the old guy. And, talk about that. You did play 17 years in the National Football League. And we're looking at Tom Brady fooling us all, coming back and, being like, I'm back. And as someone that played in the league a long time, like, what does it truly take to be able to have that longevity in a league where you're lucky to play 2 or 3 years, right? Which is the average.
Yeah, it like the same thing. I think it's a lot of luck, obviously a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work. And it's just, what Tom's been able to do now, it's funny to even say his man's going to his 23rd season. Like it's insane. But I think for me, the longevity was mentorship, coming to Dallas as an undrafted free agent. And I had examples, Michael Irvin, Henry Smith, guys that played a long period of time. And funny story, when I got to Kansas City the following year, I was in between 2 numbers. One was 42 and the other one was 32. 32 was Marcus Allen. A lot of people don't know in 1995, Ronnie Lott was with the Chiefs. And so you're talking about, like, first of all, I was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
But the fact of, like, just being able to see these guys go about their business and, like, how they took care of their bodies on the field, off the field, and Emmett and Marcus and Ronnie, they were doing acupuncture in like 94. I started doing yoga in like 96, 97. And Jay Novacek got me doing karate in 94. Just kind of like the flexibility and all that kind of stuff. And so those are the things that I think that really helped me out, a lot, was just taking care of my body and, just knock on wood, not having a lot of injuries. So
which is a blessing. Yeah, because we've seen injuries derail some careers, and it can be hard to bounce back. You may not ever come back the same. So the fact that you touched on that, and it looks like, Tony, seems like you're still doing something. It looks like you're still a great team.
Well, chasing after my dog. Yeah, I try to. But no, I'm not I'm more of a functional lifter now. It's like the days of lifting a whole bunch of weights. I love yoga. I do yoga every day. I meditate. That's more of and I cycle. So I love, like, couldn't cycle today because it's a little too cold and it's in the rain. And it's supposed to get down to 28 on Saturday here. I'm like,
I know. That's why I'll be gone, Tony. I'm leaving the coast. Y'all can have this. I'll be back when it gets warmer. All right.
I know, right? I wish I could pack up my dog and head south, but I can't.
You can go somewhere, fly anywhere. And you touched on Dallas Cowboys. And so I would be remiss if we didn't talk Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of Cowboys fans that watch this show. So, Dallas Cowboys fans at first, I think we're looking at all these moves being made, like, well, what about me? What about us? So, Tony, how are you feeling about the Dallas Cowboys right now with the current roster as they have it?
I'm blown away with some of the moves, like guys committing to contracts and then leaving. The receiving core is just getting diminished, and it's just like, and at one time that was an all-star roster. I mean, they had offensive linemen, potential Hall of Famers. Zeke was on top of his game. And I still think he's still playing at a high level, but it's just interesting how, like, you could be here one time and then all of a sudden everything falls apart.
Yeah. I mean, look at Dallas now. And, you look at Dallas now, and I think at first going into the offseason, I'd say people thought that they could repeat NFC East champion. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at Dallas, and I'm just curious your thoughts as you look at the NFC East with the rosters as they are right now. Who do you like to win that division?
That's going to be tough. Unfortunately, everyone up here calls it the NFC least. So I know the Giants aren't going to do it. Actually, I think because the team I think right now that's ready to win is the Washington football team or the Washington. What you guys saying your name?
They're the Commanders now, Tony. Keep up.
It took me a while. I don't ever want to use the Skins word because I know it's offensive.
Of course.
But the Washington football team had a ring to me, so I was like, okay, I could deal with the Washington football team.
I like you too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been and this is people y'all can check in. All shows I said I actually like the Washington football team. Keep it simple. We had just gotten used to it, and now we are the Commanders. But
I saw on your Twitter they give you. Didn't you rock a jersey or a jacket or something? Did you get?
I did. I still show love to them because I go on radio, especially a lot to talk about the team, what they're doing, and I try to give fans hope. So
But no, I think the defense is ready to roll.
Okay.
If Carson can play, I think they have the best defense in the conference for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a quiet kind of. I do follow the Eagles, but I don't think the Eagles are really ready to do anything for the next couple of years. And so I think
you're brave to say that, Tony. Do you know how Eagles fans are?
Listen, I don't
You
have.
might have
Listen,
to hide your mentions.
I can hide. They won't start throwing stuff in the window. I'm cool. Yeah.
But, I'm glad you said that because I think, this is a division. I mean, the Cowboys obviously, I think, surprised a lot of us last season. I don't think at the beginning of the season, anybody thought that they would do what they did. We had questions about Dak. Dak proved that he was back. And then it just made things work, even though, of course, they fell short at the end of their ultimate goal. But lo and behold, this offseason, I think, changes things. And I think to your point right now, Washington looks like the strong team. I think the Eagles, I don't know. I feel like you just can't fully trust and believe in the Eagles. I think they still have some development work to do. But many of us will continue to watch the NFC East. And hopefully y'all can change it from the least, right? Y'all need to put some respect on your names. All right, folks. Nonetheless, we've talked all about what's going on in the sports world. I want to talk more about Tony and his story. You already touched on Germany and being born there. And I think if people don't know this, born in Germany and you never played football, right? Until you went to high school. And you made it all the way to the NFL. So we got to talk about that, Tony. Kind of that progression of how that happened.
Yeah. So interesting enough, it's kind of a crazy journey. So I was born in Frankfurt. And I was just talking to my sister about this last night because there's still like gaps. And I guess because I was so young, but we moved every 2 to 3 years. And so born in Germany, lived there for 2. We went to El Paso, Texas for 3 years, back to Germany for 3 years, Fort Knox, Kentucky, where my dad was a drill sergeant for 3 years, back to Germany. And then finally we landed in Alabama. Wow. And literally the only reason I went out for the football team was I'm the youngest of 7. And I used to get bullied. I do a lot of work in the anti-bullying space here in New York and different places. But I got picked on a lot when I was a kid because no one knew I was going to be 6'2" and 235, 240.
They knew how you would go.
And so I used to get picked on. They used to call me Stumpy, and they were like, they said I had a high Duke. As my brothers would be like, I bet you could reach over your shoulder and get your wallet. So I was not that attractive kid. Oh, they got me. So when I got to Alabama, like the kids I kind of wanted to hang out with were the football players. And it's like, hey man, come out for a football team. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. They put the pads in my locker. I'm like, I don't know where none of this stuff go. I had my knee pad and my hip pad and my thigh, like everything was out of place. And then so the game of football, like I played other sports, but the game of football actually chose me. And the best thing that happened, just like a lot of athletes or, there's been people in your life that have been very instrumental. And my high school football coach came in, and it was my 10th grade year going into my 11th. And he implemented a weight program and we had, and you always know you got to run off some of the bad seeds. We had like 30-some kids on the team. By the time he ran everyone off, we had about 18. So we're playing 11-man football with 18 people. So I never got a break. But it taught me that resilience, that hard work, and then good things started happening. I started getting recruited, and then I ended up going to Auburn.
And you landed in a good spot, I feel like, right? I mean, Alabama, especially, I'd say Alabama football, right? Football country, football territory. And obviously went on to new heights. But for you, was it hard for you, to try to ever when you're moving around so much, right? It's probably hard to get grounded somewhere because next thing you know, you're getting picked up again and moving somewhere else. Yeah. And maybe even the bullying, I'm sure, because kids just didn't understand you, right? You're coming in, you're new, especially somewhere where you grew up, right? Yeah. In Daleville, Alabama, right? Not the biggest place, right? Yeah.
Well, so think about it. You got this black kid listening to AC/DC talking about rally dude with Afro speaking German. So they knew I was from me. They knew I was from I wasn't from
what is going on? Who is this new kid? And they're trying to get them.
It's like a culture shock. But it taught me a lot about diversity. So going and moving around as much as I did, I never really saw color. Like our parents were in the military, and that was our commonality. It wasn't like, oh, he's white and we were just kids. Wow. And so that's probably the plus, but the minus, I have zero childhood friends, not one. Because there was no way to keep in contact. There was no MySpace, there was no Facebook, there was Instagram. There was none of that. We had. So we didn't have. So I have zero childhood friends, and so I caught up with one guy. It's funny enough, he actually played for the Atlanta Falcons, and so when Andre Rison came to the Chiefs, he was just like, "Man, you remind me of this guy who's from Germany as well." And I was like, "Well, what's his name?" He's like, "Eric Jack." I'm like, "Dude, that name sounds familiar." So he was the only guy that we tracked all the way back to Germany, and he made it to the league. I made it to the league, but we never played high school ball. Obviously, we didn't have a Michael Strahan career, who ended up being a Hall of Famer and from Germany as well. But it's crazy. He was the only kid that I was ever able to track, and it was just because of Rison connected us, and we chatted, and we really didn't stay in contact because it was like dude, we were like 8. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
you guys are young.
yeah. So we didn't have too much in common, but no,
Wow.
it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like you said, how things work. And, going back to Germany,
Yep.
what are you thinking about the league's continued expansion internationally? I feel like for you, maybe you're a fan of that, right? As we expand the game of American football.
Yeah, so actually, I had an opportunity, and then the league folded. But I was going to do some broadcasting when there was what was it? What was that league? It was like the European League when they just send the guys over, NFL Europe. And so the year I signed the contract, I was supposed to go over and do it, and the league folded. But I do think now with what's going on now, the games in London, and I know we're going to do training camps in Germany and different things like that. So I'm just like, if you need me, I'm here.
I'm here. I have the experience.
First class travel, just get me there. I can take care of the rest. And so
give me some leg room, and I'm there. Right?
I'm excited because there's so many. I mean, think about it. It's like the game of football, I think, has grown so much, and really, I'm not knocking other sports, but the game of football is running the world. It's like, how can the NFL offseason popping more than NBA?
It's
baseball?
So true. Like you have to remember, even the basketball games and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like right when we're trying to get into it, then all of a sudden, boom, an NFL headline pops up and it grabs us. And to your point, how the game is growing, look at the names on the back of those jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely becoming more international. As broadcasters, we're practicing, Tony, a lot more, saying these wonderful names.
Yeah, I know, right? You have to. I'm always just like, I don't want to mess that. I ain't going to miss that name. I'll leave that one alone.
Like, look, so-and-so messed up my name on the broadcast.
Yeah.
No one wants to be on that. But again, I think it's exciting times for the league as it continues to expand. All right, let's talk about Auburn. And you talked about, of course, you got to the NFL as an undrafted free agent, but you did a lot of great stuff at Auburn. So this is when you get to brag on yourself, Tony, and talk about the things that you did in college that, of course, enabled you to take that next step.
Yeah. So, and I tell you the truth, it's like to wear that, and I'm proud Auburn man. And it's funny though, when I got to Dallas Cowboys, and I tell you the Auburn stories, but when I got to the Cowboys, it was like, oh, where'd you go to school? Auburn. It was like, oh, he's tough. So it was kind of that mindset. If you one, it was you played in the SEC, but two, they knew if you went to Auburn, like you were built different. Like we had 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
Now you can't get guys that have 2 days. Like we had a 5 a.m. practice. I could still smell the dew of the grass, and I hated it. I was ready to come home. I was like, I can't do this. So we had a 5 o'clock wake up, coming around with a bullhorn. I'm like, these people are crazy. Full pass practice started like 6:37. We have a 12 o'clock walkthrough, a full pass practice at 3, and then a night practice. And I was like, man, these people are crazy. And so I didn't know what I was doing when I got to Auburn in 90. We had a number 1 ranked defense, and I was probably number 15 on the depth chart. And I was like, you know what? Anything that looks different on the other side of the ball, I'm just going to hit it as hard as I can. And so good things happen. And I'm the second running back to, to ever start at Auburn. So Bo Jackson was number 1, and I was the second running back to start. So that was, we had some good times my senior year. Unfortunately, we were on probation. So we went 11-0, but we didn't get a chance to play for the national championship. But special times, I'm still an Auburn fan. I hate my boys lost last week in the tourney, but I rock with them. Yeah.
Better luck next year, right? This is why we love Mars. We can't already wait. But you did great things at Auburn. You already touched on going to the NFL. You got to play with the Cowboys, as you mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs. Lots of Chiefs fans also watch the show. Vikings and the New York Jets. We talked about your time with the Dallas Cowboys. Now let's head over to Kansas City. Right? Great amount of time there. Let's look back on what Kansas City meant for you playing a majority of your career there.
Yeah, so I go back, and God rest his soul. Actually, I guess at that time he was a Washington Redskins coach.
Right.
But Marty Schottenheimer. So God rest his soul. He just passed, not too long ago, and it was great because I don't know why I got all these. I ain't gonna say crazy coaches, but some kind of way I adopted all these, or they adopted me. But Marty reminded me of my dad. Like he was from Germany, so it's Schottenheimer, obviously. Yeah. But he was just a hard-nosed coach. There was no such thing as like 2 a day. I mean, our 2 days were full pads, full scrimmage, like 32 days straight getting it. But to me, it was just the same mindset that I had from Auburn. And it was also how I grew up. So my dad, obviously, he wouldn't have been doing 2 days, but he was very strict and disciplined because of the military. Like Saturday mornings, most kids are like, oh, it's Saturday. I'm like, no, Saturdays are bad.
You're like, Saturday.
Man, Saturday, we had to get and I still do this here in my home. I got a bucket of bleach, toothbrush, clean the baseboards. Every closet, people are like, dude, you're out of your mind. Every closet's organized, color coordinated, every drawer. everything to the
Wow.
point where even my dog, if I tell him to go take his toys and put them back up before it's time to go to bed, he can take his toys from the bed and put it in his basket. And they're like, dude, you need issues. but going to Kansas City, it was like for me, it was just like being home, because it was just like, it was structured, it was disciplined, it was hard nosed. But if you did everything that Marty asked you to do, then you had no problems. And that's what I had at home. As long as we did our chores, we did what we were supposed to do, we made our grades, no problem. If you didn't, there was consequences. And so that's why I really love Marty. Yeah. And so he gave me my first opportunity. And then, fast forward fast forward when at my tail end of my career, Brian Schottenheimer, his son, was my offensive coordinator. So it's kind of funny how things start and how things kind of end. But Kansas City was special, and so many great memories. Obviously I lost one of my dear friends, Derek Thomas, a former Alabama great, who actually was my hostess when I went to the University of Alabama on my recruiting trip. And then when he passed away, the Chiefs actually asked me to eulogize him, so I had to speak at his funeral, which was extremely difficult. But yeah, so many great friends, so many great memories. I mean, I performed I'm actually ordained, so my record right now, I'm 11-0. So I've done 11 weddings. My first ever wedding was Tony Gonzalez. So I married Tony in October.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that? That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's my first. So, just lifelong friends that I'll have for the rest of my life. And, have an opportunity to play with Priest Holmes, Dante Hall, Eddie Kennison, Trent Green, Willie Roaf, Will Shields, like all these Hall of Famers. It was pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. I mean, that's like the legendary days. I feel like when you talk about that. All right. So we talked about.
I actually, I'm going to cut you off, but I was actually on the field when Derek Thomas I think he had 9 sacks in one game. It was like 7. It was something like, it was just like they couldn't block him. It was against the Seattle Seahawks.
Unfair.
How are you going to have 7 sacks in one game? That's
one game. It's like, no. There's no way this is one game. You look back. It was one.
And the best part about it, so Derek was considered a linebacker. So in practice, in training camp, we had to go one-on-one pass running backs versus linebackers. I'm like, are y'all like, how you want me to block him? Like, can nobody else block him? No offensive line can block him. He used to embarrass us too, because it was just like, one, he was big and physical, but 2, he was so quick. I'm like, but it got me better, because I was like, if you can block Derek, you can block anyone. Never blocked him, but at least I tried. Yeah. Never blocked him. Yeah,
see, to be the best, you have to be the best, right?
That's
and
true.
So like you said, if you could get through that, and you knew you could get through anything. Exactly. All right, we also got to show love to the Vikings and Jets. So let's start with the Vikings, and we'll move on to the Jets, talking about your playing time in Minnesota.
So that was difficult initially, because that was at the end of, I guess, year 12, and I thought I would never leave Kansas City, because you think there's loyalty, you think teams are going, and then you start realizing, like, if Emmett can end up in the Cardinals jersey, Brett Favre can end up in the Jets jersey, like,
right, and I definitely could.
Yeah, so things can happen. So my contract was up. It was the first time the Chiefs had ever allowed me to be a free agent, and they were like, well, Tony, we're going to offer you a 1-year deal, and we want to put you in the front office. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't want anyone to be able to dictate how I was going to end my career. So my agent was like, well, you should take some free agent visits. And I was like, Pat, my agent's Pat Dye Jr., my former coach's son. And so he was like, at least just take a visit, see what's out there. So the only visit I took was to the Vikings, and they rolled out the red carpet. And I had never really experienced that. So they flew me out there, had my name and jersey printed up in the stadium, and put me up in this fancy hotel. Put way too many bottles of wine in there. They knew what they were doing.
We're gonna get him.
Yeah. Fancy dinner and the whole deal. And so, man, they were like, listen, we're gonna give you a 2-year deal. Here's the number. Here's a check. You write it. And I was just like, but I was like, I couldn't. For me, it was hard, because I'm like, there was some loyalty there, and I was like, I can't make this decision today. Let me go back home and talk to my mentors. And I had talked to Dick Vermeil. I talked to my dad, obviously. And the one thing that I think they kind of sold it, and I still think they planted this guy next to me on the plane. Yeah, I was torn, and so I said, I'll call you guys tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know. So I'm on the plane, and I got my head down or whatever. So this guy, he's like, hey man, everything okay? I was like, yeah. He was like, what were you doing in Minnesota? And I was like, well, I had to go. I said, I was on a business trip. And he's like, oh, was it a job opportunity? And I was like, yeah. He's like, what do you think, you're gonna take the job? And I was like, well, I've currently been on my job for a long period of time. It's difficult to leave. He said, well, I don't want to get in your business. Like I said, I think they planted him there. But he said, the one piece of advice that I would tell you, he said, I was in the same situation, and I was kind of forced with having to make that decision. He said, the only thing that I regret is I didn't take the job soon enough. He said, so think about it. you get a chance to go to a new city, meet new people, build new connections, and you're still going to have your old connections, and you get a chance to do it on someone else's dime. And I was like, man, who put this dude next to me?
Right, like, it sounds too good. Like, how do you put all that together?
Yeah, and so it was tough. And I remember going home and prayed about it and talked to my parents about it. And the next morning, I called my agent and I said, Pat, I'm going to Minnesota. He was like, you want me to call him? I said, no, I'll do it. So I called the Chiefs first, and it was very emotional. And the Chiefs was like, they were like, no, we'll give you the 2-year deal. We didn't want you. So they were, how they said negotiation. And I think it just hurt my feelings that I was like, I never thought after all these years and the loyalty that I showed that I would ever have to get on a plane and seek employment. Yeah. So I told him I was leaving, and next thing you know, I'm in Minnesota and got a chance to block for this incredible.
Yeah, we see
it. Adrian Peterson. So that was very special working with him.
Wow. And AP, again, another guy that just, talking about a long career. Yeah. I wish he could have stayed in Washington longer, but that's just my personal thoughts.
I agree. Yeah.
Many of us were like, when that whole thing happened, we're like, wait, what? Like AP, like you have a legend. But I mean, obviously great memories in Minnesota. And now, but certainly not least, we got to talk the Jets, the Jets, right? Jets, and that wonderful fan base. So let's talk about your time in New York.
Yeah, so like I said, everything is, and it's funny because I think the entire league it's obviously being in the right place at the right time, the relationships. And so at the end of my tenure in Minnesota, AP and I had just made the Pro Bowl, and so it's kind of one of those things. It's like it's just like if you get if the old dog is starting to get a little rough around the edges, you bring a new dog in and he gives them. So AP was my puppy, so he was kind of like, gave me new energy. So we made the Pro Bowl that year, and I was like, I thought I was going to hang it up. And then Jimmy Ray, who's another, he was the offensive coordinator with Washington, and so Jimmy Ray calls me up. He was like, "Hey, Pro," and I was like, "Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?" He was like, "Hey, you still think you got some gas in the tank?" And I'm like, "Man, Jimmy, what are you talking about?" He was like, "Listen, I'm an offensive coordinator." No, he was a running back coach at that time with the Jets, and he said, we got a team that we're building, and we just need leadership. He's like, we got Thomas Jones. And that's when we brought in Damian Woody. So D Wood came in, Alan Faneca. We hadn't signed Bart yet, but we brought in Faneca, Calvin Pace. So they were really making some moves, and I didn't. And for me, being from the South and growing up in Germany, like I thought that Satan was sitting on top of the Empire State Building. We talking about New York, and so I was like, man, I'm not going there. And I was like, oh no. Nah. So I came out, and that's when we were up in Hofstra, and Hofstra was up in Long Island. I was just like, I don't know if I could do this, but I ended up signing. I signed a 1-year deal, ended up being 3, and to me, it's the best 3 years of my career and partly of my life, because it's like now, like you said, it's like having to move every 2 to 3 years. I moved here since 2008. I've lived in the same place, and they're like, "Man, what are you still doing in New York?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm never moving again. I'm tired of this."
Right, no more moving. My bags are right here.
Right here. So planted here. I live right across the street from the firehouse. Those firefighters, police officers, all Jet fans, every single day. "Hey man, what the Jets gonna do?" I said, "Dude, you just asked me that yesterday. Ain't nothing happened."
It never gets tiring, baby. It never gets tiring. I'm gonna be that person now, Tony. What are you guys gonna do? We gotta get this team back better. All right. Many fans last year, had hope. Obviously, young quarterback, young team overall. But how do we get the Jets back to, I'd say, just even getting respect in the league as a football team?
Yes, I know a lot of Jet fans were very disappointed that Tyreek Hill didn't make the decision to come here, but also I had to let him know though. I said, listen, think about in his position. He's from Florida. He trains down in Miami. He has a house down in Miami. Yeah. And guess what? $120 million with no state taxes. That's a lot of more change in your pocket. Yeah. And so. And then you're in South Beach. And so it's like, and so the Jet fans kind of took it personal. And I was like, it's not personal, because at the end of the day, it's the same division, both young quarterbacks. But it's like, and I love New York. But if I'm in South Beach with 120 nickels in my pocket, it's a whole different.
Look, that's most people. Most people are going to say yes to South Beach. Let's just be honest.
100%. Yeah. So, but the thing about it, and that's why tonight, when I jump on this podcast, and I don't even know how many Jet fans are in this space. But I'm gonna say the fact that the organization was even willing to do that, they're committed to trying. He's a generational talent. Like, and I'm even worried about my Chiefs, because that dude is just different. Like, Travis Kelsey is great, But when you got a guy that's that fast and you got to take 3 people to cover him, everybody's open. So
It's
running
different,
game.
right?
So it's just going to be different. So,
Yeah.
it would have been a good addition here, but, we got to move on. So
You do. Hey, you just got to go with what you got.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Chiefs. I know that some people felt away, especially Kansas City fans, when Bart Scott left the Chiefs off of his top teams in the AFC. You have the Chiefs as a top team in the AFC, Tony?
It's so funny. It's like, so Damien Woody, a dear friend of mine, and Bart. So I watched them and listened to them. And and sometimes I'll chime in, I'll call Bart. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, how do you just leave the Chiefs off? Like, he didn't even add in. I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind. But to his credit, though, the AFC West is going to be serious. I mean,
it's going to be nice.
West, man, the Raiders, the Chargers. I mean, it's serious. So, but you still, I think, Patrick Mahomes. I guess that's a good question, though. Would you say that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the AFC West now, or do you say Russ? Because that's kind of tough. They both have Super Bowl rings. They both played in 2 Super Bowls. That's going to be interesting to see.
Russ should have had another one, but that's a whole other topic.
We
won't go there, Tony. We won't go there.
I think they were point shaving. So I think
that still hurts many of us. Still hurts many of us. And then you have another Darryl
Bevell was my quarterback. He was offensive coordinator when I was with the Vikes, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Marshawn Lynch got you here." I already tell you what it is, and this is my theory.
Yeah.
If Marshawn Lynch would have got that, if he'd have scored a touchdown, he'd have had 2 touchdowns. Guess who would have been a Super MVP? They did not want that. Russ throws a touchdown pass. He'd have been a Super Bowl MVP. And I'm like, if y'all, and that's what he wasn't talking to the media. They did not want to have him to be the MVP. And there's no other reason in the world why you would throw that ball on the 1 yard line when you got arguably the meanest fullback, tailback, running back in the whole league. All of it. Yeah.
I mean, that's self-explanatory. Like you said, I mean, you had to have one job to do. We all thought that job was going to be done, but lo and behold, Russ is sitting there without a ring that he should not have. But
we were at the game, so it was working for NFL Legends. Like, we go to all the Super Bowls, and I think it was about 9 or 10 of us, and we were former players sitting in the stands together. When that joker reared back to throw the ball, all of us was like, "Duh!" And it was like we were in the stadium like this. I cannot believe that. And one, because I don't even think Tom even thought that. He thought the game was over. They scored, game's over. They picked the ball off. I'm like, oh man, that's wow. That might be
that hurt.
That hurt. That stung. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the most, I think, hurtful plays in sports history.
History. Yeah. All
right, so I know we have to let you go soon. But you mentioned NFL Legends. Tell us all about it and the great work that I know you continue to do with that.
Yeah, so that's what moves the needle in my life now. I'm obviously involved in a lot of different charities, but NFL Legends and Tracy Perlman, Troy Vincent, the commissioner are doing a tremendous job taking care of our former players. And so my department, which is awesome, is the number one thing we want to do is when a guy finishes his career, first of all, we just want to celebrate him. We're like, hey, man, if you played 1 year, if you played 3, if you played 26, like Brady, you got a chance to do something that, a lot of people didn't get an opportunity to do. So let's celebrate that. And let's also amplify it and see what some other things you're interested in. And then also, it's just being that person on the phone who can, maybe talk you through your benefits or sometimes, like a lot of times, I think for me, like, do I miss the X's and O's? Do I miss game day? But the biggest thing I miss is that locker room and that brotherhood. And so that's what we want to do is create that brotherhood, create the locker room, celebrate our guys, love on them, just be there to support them. And so I'm the Northeast coordinator. So my 2 teams are the Jets and the Giants, and anyone that's played in that era at all, 1 year, 1 practice squad, anything, then I support them. But we also work, in different places. I'm in the Northeast, and so we work with the Washington football team or the Commanders, and we got the Eagles and we got the Patriots, but it's all one family, all one team.
That's wonderful. Well, keep up the great work, Tony. And something that you said that I love is however long you played, you are a legend. I think that's
100%. Yeah.
Because usually I feel like people think of like legends. You think you have to be there a long time.
Yep.
But I think that's how we have to start looking at ourselves, even, right? Like no matter how long you work in your own right, you are a legend in your own space. So
that's interesting because when that word came out, some people frowned. It was like, I don't consider myself a legend. They'd be like, Joe Namath's a legend. I only played 5 years. I'm like, but you're a legend at some point in your career. You were a legend in high school. You were a legend in college. And if you played 1 year in the National Football League, you accomplished a lot. And so you're a legend. And that's the verbiage. And, some people's like, he's not a legend. I'm like, no, if you played in this league, you're a legend. So we treat everyone the same. Yep.
That's wonderful. Yeah. You're talking to someone that was a high school legend, all right? Those of us that stopped sports in high school, we're legends. Right, folks.
You're a legend.
Tony Richardson, thank you so much for joining me live on Listen In with KNN. Again, guys, check him out on Twitter. He's a phenomenal follow, doing lots of great work. Check out NFL Legends and so much more. Tony, thanks for your time. I'll let you get some rest.
Awesome.
And enjoy 16.
Michigan's losing. Villanova's at 49-41, still out.
You know why they're losing? It's ending the show. And see, if we kept talking, they probably would be leading.
You're right.
Have a great one, Tony. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for tuning in. We will be back next week. I'm so excited. If you guys saw my picture on social media, you guys already know who my next guest is going to be. None other than former NFL quarterback Randall Cunningham. Super excited to have him on. As you all know, previously, we had the late, great Sam Bam Cunningham on the show. But again, excited to talk with Randall. Had a chance to go out to Las Vegas and have a great chat with him, meet his son, meet his little daughter. It was just a phenomenal experience. And also check out our audio show where we had Kyle Lauren joining as well. So we're talking soccer. We're also talking football. We're talking everything on the show because that's what we do. So excited again. Can't wait. Appreciate all your support. A special thanks to all of you for tuning in. A special thanks to my incredible team, my wonderful, talented team of interns and everybody else. Cannot do it without you. Of course, my staff, Mike Lyle, Dean Peretta, so much more. You guys are awesome. All right. And again, to my loyal listeners, as always, use hashtag Listening with KNN or hashtag LIWKNN. Share something from this show. All right. Share with the good folks that missed it. Let's bring them all in. And until next time, enjoy the sports world, smile, and please don't take your fantasy sports too seriously because there's always another play. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
The Lady Clipper Barbershop has been serving the needs of Washington, D.C. since 2017. The Lady Clipper is a full-service, woman-owned barbershop conveniently located in the epicenter of the historic U Street corridor. We specialize in all hair types. We believe that the key to providing great service is our ambitious and knowledgeable staff. We are always working to find new ways to provide you with the best service possible. The Lady Clipper Barbershop blends an eye for style with a passion for precision. Visit their website at theladyclipper.com to schedule an appointment. That's theladyclipper.com.
Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio now offers official Kelsey Nicole Nelson apparel in a variety of styles for men and women. Fashionable shirts, leggings, hats, jackets, and more. Order now and get 15% off and free shipping. Just enter promo code KNN. Get your Listen In with KNN wearables today. And check out Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio with Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. And catch each broadcast of Listen In with KNN on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this special live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.